Hello and welcome to the introductory video to Competency 2, which I've titled The Basket is Tyranny, and you'll find out why I'm calling that in a minute. So let's get started with this lecture and talk about what we will be talking about. The first thing is I want to go over key points from the audio Nightline video that you just watched. You should have watched all three parts of this. If you haven't done that, please go back and watch all those three. And then I'm going to talk about the redesign of the dining experience, which will be the project you'll be working on for Competency 2. All right, let's get started about the key points from the Nightline video. One thing that I want to talk about is design as a discipline, the design process, so-called design experts, and time constraints, and how designers are different from your typical person, because that part really amused me. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is at the very beginning of the program, Ted Koppel has, I think, a really good introduction about what design is and what it means to our society. He says, everything we use was formed to create some sort of marriage between form and function. So literally what he's saying is, except for nature, everything that we interact with, our shoes, our socks, our knives, our forks, our plates, the drawer that you used, think about all that you do when you get up in the morning till you go to bed at night. Everything you interact with has been designed by somebody. And if you think about that, it really kind of just blows your mind that there has been some person or some force or some committee that has designed what you use. Sometimes that design is good and sometimes that design is bad. And sometimes it's so good you don't even notice that you're experiencing it, and sometimes it's so bad that you don't want to interact with that piece at all. So think about the difference between standing in line in the DMV, which is a bad experience, which has been designed, and using an OXO can opener, which has been designed with the needs of users in mind. So when you start to really break that down, you can see how you becoming a designer and learning how to influence that will make a really big difference to somebody in big or small ways. So I think that was just really important to point out. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is when David Kelly is after he introduces all of the things that they've done, he says, you know, we're not really expert at the subject matter. What we are is we're expert at the process of how to design stuff. And the reason I'm calling this out is because I think it can be very overwhelming, you know, professionally or even just the students, when you have a client come to you with a problem or you're trying to face something, to be overwhelmed with how to solve this, how to fix it, and to get really tied up in perfecting that or being an expert or doing a lot of research, when in fact, if you just be really good at the process of finding out how to solve something, then I would say 80% of that is taken care of because it's built into that process. And IDEO has done a really good job of defining that process, refining it, and then in turn sharing it with everybody else. So I really like this point because it talks to me about how you don't have to be the number one expert at the subject matter when you help people. You just need to know how to listen and how to empathize and what steps to take between the beginning and the end of that. And that's what we'll be learning in this class. The next point that I thought was really interesting was at this sequence, after they have launched their project, they go in and they go into deep dive mode where they go and talk to anybody and everybody who has used a shopping cart. And David Kelly here, in fact, still defers expertise outside of his area. He says, the trick is to find these real experts. And I'm going to show you a video later on in the course where it is a software company and they talk about experts when they talk about users. And they found that they have found the most feedback from the expert users on the range of super expert, people who really use it and really liked the project or experience, and those that didn't and had a definite bad experience. Those two and those extremes gave a lot of strong feedback, and I would call those the real experts. And those are the kinds of people that you're going to be looking for when you talk to users for your dining experience. You, of course, will want to talk to everybody, but be sure you really, if somebody is very passionate for or against a subject, they will really give you a lot of good insight. Okay, the next thing is David Kelly here talking about if you don't work under time constraints, you could never get anything done. And I'm calling this out because I hear this a lot with work, and I feel this a lot in my own personal work where I think, man, if I just had had another day, then X could have been so much better. And the truth is, we don't have another day. We have the time that we have, and sometimes you just have to learn how to allocate your resources, what you've got, and turn something out in the amount of time that you have. It won't be as wonderful as you think it might always be if you had had all the time that you needed, but it will be as best as you can with the time that you're given. And that is something that's real world, is that you don't get 100 years to do something. I mean, you get even a lot less time out there sometimes than you do in school projects. But it's just a point to find comfort that everybody feels that way, professionally and personally. But the truth is, the clock keeps ticking, and you've got to figure out how to end it. Okay, and then this last point, which every time I saw this, it just really made me laugh. This is at the point where the designer on the left is talking to the reporter, and the reporter is saying, well, what about the big basket? Tell me why you don't have it? And so this guy has already bought into the whole concept of why they have presented this way, and he says the basket is tyranny. He has a very passionate statement about why the shopping cart has evolved into this form. And he's saying, once you have that big basket, there's so much that you can't do with it because it just is one solution. And look at how he's like all geared up to just really be forceful about that. And this speaks to me about how designers are different from ordinary people or people who don't know that everything around them has been designed. And this might be new insight for you, and maybe it's something that you've always known. But once you take the red pill, like in the Matrix, and you see that things that exist or are status quo don't have to be that way, you begin to have a strong position about whether or not that is good, whether it's bad, or what you can do to make it better. When you start making those strong position statements or thinking them, that's when you know that you've crossed over and you are truly a designer. Okay, so the second point that we wanted to go over is the Redesign the Dining Experience, which is our project for Competency 2, and why I have chosen it. So that's our first subject that I want to talk about. Next is some obstacles that might get in the way of this competency project, and a mindset that you should have going into this.
All right, so let's go over why I picked the dining experience for this competency. The first thing is that it's very common to everybody. Of course, everybody eats. So because of that, you will have a wide variety of experiences that you can think about redesigning. You could have the experience of somebody who has to cook for a family, somebody who is on the go and eats through drive-throughs, someone who's really concerned about health food and maybe shops explicitly at Whole Foods or My Foods, or you can have somebody who doesn't care about food at all and really just eats to maintain energy. So there's a lot of spaces to do these observations and a lot of people to talk about in which ways their dining experience can be improved. And then that leads me to the third one, is that it's very, very easy to observe this. You will, of course, not be observing your own experiences, but if you are somebody who is taking this course online because you are busy working, or you don't have time to come to school, or you don't have time to observe in a larger environment, you can easily observe the dining experience in your own home or with a neighbor or somebody very close to you. So those are three big reasons why I chose that we redesigned the dining experience.
So some obstacles are you're going to feel like you don't know what you're doing because you'll be doing this process from the very beginning to the very end, and it will be a lot longer and more comprehensive than the gift experience, which is sort of like the gift experience is like wading into the pool, and redesign the dining experience is just like diving in the deep end. You're just going to take it all in and do what you can. You're going to be treading water. You're going to feel like there may not be enough structure in this, although I'm going to structure it as best I can. You may feel like you need more structure, or you're not sure exactly what's going on, and that's okay. That's okay that you feel that way. I'm trying not to have that happen, but if you feel that way, that is actually normal. And then you may feel like I said earlier, you may not have enough time to wrap all of this up. But again, it's all process and doing the best that you can with the time that you have given. And that brings me to trust the process. Don't get too caught up in the end or making everything perfect. Just do the steps as best you can and trust the process, trust the experts, trust the people that you're talking to, and the input that you're getting from me or your other classmates. Really carefully examine that and trust that process to give you the answers that you need. It may not be the very right answer. The answer may be you need to go back to the drawing board, or maybe you need to solve another problem because this problem that you're thinking about isn't actually the issue. Whatever comes out of that process is the answer at that time. Some mindsets that you need to go over. One of them is to be very open. Really just try not to have any preconceived ideas about what this is going to be, who's going to say what. The minute that you have those, things can change. So just be very open with the whole process and try to let go. On top of that, try not to have any set expectations of what will be accomplished or what direction you're positive this will be going in. Let the process dictate all of that. And focus on your user and their experience, what they really are telling you. Try to listen and talk less, listen more, and find out what they're really needing from this. Okay, to wrap it up, the IDEO Nightline video was very influential in helping establish to just the general public and actually other companies on what the design thinking process is and how it can be very, very useful and very innovative. And the dining experience is going to be very interesting. It's something that we all can relate to, something that we all go through, and I think this will be very interesting to figure out how we can make that better. So then let's move on to the discussion board where your assignment is to do some feedback and discussion on the videos themselves. And as always, have fun exploring. Thanks so much.